A few housekeeping details to start. We are going to record this session of Holiday Eating Strategies, Nutrition Made Easy. Again, my name is Charisse and I am at the Central Branch. And this has been a whole series of webinars with Melanie Burdick, who is a giant nutritionist. I want to call your attention to our next event. Tomorrow, Friday, November 20th at 3 o'clock, we do have another webinar. It's in the category of Eat Well, Foodie Topics. Take a virtual store tour. Take a walk with the nutritionist to learn about the coolest new products on the shelf and easy ways to build a healthier basket. We'll hit each section of the store, show you what to look for, and do some myth busting along the way. So that webinar is tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and you can still sign up for that. I want to welcome Melanie and say thank you for hosting this series for the library. Melanie Burdick is a nutritionist for Giant Food. She is based in Ellicott City and is a registered dietitian and licensed dietitian nutritionist. She's also a certified diabetes care and education specialist, a certified specialist in obesity and weight management, and a certified personal trainer. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Dietetics from Eastern Michigan University and a Master of Science in Applied Nutrition from the University of New England. Melanie believes in practical steps to improving health and wellness where no foods are off limits. I really like that part of the bio. No foods are off limits. That sounds fantastic.
Yes.
Please note, everyone, we do have a chat area and a Q&A area, and I'll be monitoring both. Please place your questions in the Q&A area, and I will turn this over to Melanie. Thanks, Melanie.
Oh, thanks, Charisse. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining today. Again, I am Melanie Burdick, and I am one of 10 in-store nutritionists with Giant Food. And my office is right in Ellicott City. And so I am the local Howard County Giant dietitian nutritionist. So I cover all of the stores in Howard County, also live in Howard County as well, too. And then I also cover some of the stores in Montgomery, Baltimore City, and Baltimore County. So I'll give you more details about what we do in the store at the end of the program. But today we're going to talk all about holiday eating strategies. And it is hard to believe that Thanksgiving is a week away. So this year has flown by. But we know that food, it's everywhere during the holiday season, basically from Halloween all the way into the new year. And it can be really tough to stick to your health and wellness goals and your exercise habits. But if we take a little bit of time and a little attention, we can make it through the holidays without really losing track of our healthy lifestyle that we worked so hard for. All right, so for today, we are going to break the presentation into 3 sections. First, we'll step into the office and we'll talk about that holiday eating mentality, and we'll get more into that in just a minute. And then we'll talk about some great items to add to your cart this year, and really anytime during the year as well. And then how to make the most of your holiday meal at home in the kitchen. All right, so let's head into the office. All right, so the holiday eating mentality. All right, so every year when we start getting closer to the holidays, we start thinking about eating and weight gain. And so there are some factors that really can play into this weight gain that we hear about and talk about so much. And so many of these might resonate with you. Some of them do with me. And so first off, we have the feel-good factor of food feels really, really good. Sometimes food can be a source of comfort, especially during this year. Things have been a little bit stressful. And so sometimes we have that escape with food. And then it's only one time a year. So there are items that we only serve once a year, like pie, stuffing, or sweet potatoes. And so we might as well go big or go home, right? And then there's that sentimental value. I think about there are certain recipes in my family that my grandma made that really do resonate. And so they taste really good and they're also really special. So you might have your grandma's favorite stuffing or mashed potatoes that have such a special spot, and you can't have Thanksgiving without them or any holiday without them. And then there's also, we don't want to be rude factor. And I'm sure we've all experienced this. Sometimes people might have brought us food or offered us food that we really were really interested in, but we didn't want to be rude. So we took it anyway, but it might have not been our first choice. I think of the fruit cake that many people get during the holiday season. And then we sort of have that diet starts tomorrow thought process of the black and white thinking, that plagues us when it comes to our eating habits. If we have more of an indulgent meal, it doesn't mean that the rest of the day or the week is a wash. We can still make healthy choices on those other days of the year or throughout that rest of the day if you have a splurge. So those are some of the things that can impact us during the holidays when it comes to eating. And let's talk about this weight gain. So average holiday weight gain starts to rise at Halloween and then starts to peak closer to Christmas or New Year's. And it's only about 1 or 2 pounds that we think of, rather than the 7 to 10 that we hear about so much in the media. I'm sure you've all seen articles. And so that sounds really good, just a couple of pounds, no big deal. But that actually accumulates every year. And so we usually don't lose the weight that we lost the year before. And so year after year, we can gain up to 15 pounds or more in a decade. So that doesn't sound too bad, but 15 pounds in your 40s, in your 50s, and your 60s, that really can increase our risk for heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and other health conditions. And that's just during that holiday time. This doesn't include the rest of the time of the year. And so let's look at that. So what causes some of this weight gain that we might experience? So the average holiday dinner might have anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000 calories. That's quite a bit. That could be double what we need in a single day. And so it might also have 200 plus grams of fat, which is several days worth of fat. So things like pumpkin pie, pecan pie, stuffing, mashed potatoes, all of those add up pretty fast. They can be anywhere from 300 to 500, 600 calories. And then we might do some munching throughout the day, whether it's nuts or appetizers or while you're cooking. Those holiday calories add up really, really fast. So I always think of this during the holidays. We can usually eat our food in a pretty short amount of time, maybe 30 minutes. But how long does it take to burn off those 3,000 to 4,000 calories? It would take 4 hours of cardiovascular exercise, 4 hours of lifting weights, and 4 hours of yard work, so raking the leaves, to burn off all of those calories. So 12 hours of physical activity for that short meal. So that could be one thing to think about when you're going through the holidays. How long is this going to take to burn off? And that might change your thinking a little bit. All right. So again, as we're going through the holidays, we're always thinking about, 2021 or the following year. And really what we want to focus on during this time, we want to give ourselves some flexibility, and we really want to focus on weight maintenance rather than losing weight during the holidays, because maintaining your weight can be hard enough without adding more stress to yourself. So we don't want to set ourselves up for a realistic goal during this time. We want to just manage the best we can. And one thing that's really interesting when you think about the holidays, there's only a handful of holiday days during the year. The rest is just the days leading up to the holidays. So we want to think about those days rather than the weeks between the holidays, and really enjoy those items that we have on the holiday rather than having those splurges throughout the whole season. So that can be one way to change your thinking. And then two, think about your activity goals during this time of year. It's getting a little chillier out, but we want to make sure that we're still moving every day. At least 30 minutes of exercise can really make a difference for your mental health and your overall health and help maintain that weight. And then we don't want to think about dieting after the new year. So I know when we think about the holidays, we're always thinking about those New Year's resolutions, but really, if you change your thought of not dieting during the holiday season, or I should say dieting when you get to the new year, that's actually going to help you be more successful. Sometimes we can have that anticipation of restricted eating. And so we might overdo some of our food choices during the holiday to compensate. All right, so what are some things that you can do during this time? So it's really important to keep up your routine as much as possible. Things can get busy. This year might look a little bit different, but we want to keep our routine as much as we can. So keeping that eating routine as much as you can do it. So eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner in regular meals. This can help prevent you from overeating, and that can help keep those treats just a little less tempting during the day. And then keep that activity up as much as you can. Again, that 30 minutes, if you can do it every single day. And that's really just a great outlet and a great way to strengthen your body and burn those calories. And then think about your sleep schedule. What time do you go to bed? What time do you wake up? Try to keep that routine as much as possible. When we get regular sleep, that actually can help with our appetite as well. And then watch out for those sneaky calories. I know we might be guilty of this. We might have things while we're baking, a cookie here or a cookie there. Sometimes in my house, I might have a few failures when it comes to my cookies. So I might have a cookie here or a nibble there, and those calories add up. Also, things like if you're cleaning up for dinner or dishing out desserts. Whoop, we went backwards. Whoop. Let me go back here. Sorry, guys. There we go. Oop, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what happened. Let me see here for just a second. Actually, Charisse, I'm gonna stop my share just for a second and we're gonna do this over again just to make sure. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. All right, here we go. There we go. Perfect. We're back where we were. So, really thinking about those added calories that can sneak in during, this time frame. But one thing that I always stress with any of the clients that I work with and my customers is don't be hard on yourself. We are human. And so, really, when you think about it, what you do most of the time outweighs what you do some of the time. So, if you have a treat or a splurge, it's okay. We can still work in that healthy eating routine. And then finally, savor the flavors. Think about slowing down, eating mindfully during this time. Take 30 minutes to enjoy that meal, chew thoroughly, and you're going to probably eat less and feel more satisfied. All right, I don't want to goof up my sides like I did last time. Here we go. So this year, I know probably some of our plans have changed. So we might not be getting together like we normally would. Hopefully next year and our coming celebrations will be back to business. So these things might not be going on this year, but these are great tips that you can use at any future gathering, whether it's the holidays or a work party. And so when you first go to a party, the one thing that we want to make sure is that you enjoy the party. Think about the memories and the people rather than the food. And you also want to think about not coming to the party hungry. I'm sure we've all experienced this. I have. When you come to a party early, you're going to have maybe some extra treats when you get there. And then, of course, you can always say no. You can always, turn down a food that someone offers you. And it's okay to say, no, thanks, I'm full. Or, you know what? That's not really my favorite. Or you can say, maybe I'll take some home with me instead. It's okay to turn down things that you're not crazy about. And then also you want to survey the buffet. Look at all the options that are available. So, take a look at all the tables, have a game plan going on before you put all those items on your plate. And then when you're building your plate, you can use the USDA My Plate, which is that nice reminder of what we should have. So a half plate produce, a quarter protein, and a quarter carbohydrate or grain on our plate. So you can use that as you're building your meals. And then, of course, we want to watch out for those liquid calories that we might have during the holidays. So we want to consume those in moderation, whether they're non-alcoholic or alcoholic. If we choose to have alcohol, it's about 1 drink for women and 2 for men. And it's important to note that alcohol can impact your sleep. So you want to make sure that you're staying hydrated and not going overboard. And one thing you can do is for every glass of, a non-alcoholic or an alcoholic beverage, make sure you have a glass of water with it. And then another thing that you can do is get outside, go for a post-dinner walk, or just get out while you're at an event. Get some fresh air. This can help with digestion, help with your blood sugars, and help with some stress, step away from the family for just a little bit. All right, so as we move through the holidays, we're always thinking about that looming new year. So we want to think about it maybe a little bit differently than we normally do. Diet and exercise are always the big ones. But most of the time, and I've been guilty of this, and I'm sure this might resonate with other people, is that, we might have made prior unrealistic goals that didn't last very long. And then we feel like we didn't accomplish what we set out to do. So this year, we can kind of think about shifting our focus and staying away from that all or nothing approach and give ourselves flexibility for mistakes and build a system that supports our goals and helps us achieve them. So shifting the focus. So instead of thinking about weight, think about your health. And when we think about making changes in our diet and lifestyle and our eating habits, that's going to promote weight loss. So it all gets you to the same point. And so there are many different ways that you can do this. You can think about building an action plan and focusing on what you're going to do, how you're going to do it rather than what you're going to do it. So for instance, if I want to lose 10 pounds, how am I going to do that? That's a great goal, but what am I going to do to get me to that point? So start small. Think about things that you can do during your day. So is it shifting, from 2 glasses of soda a day to 1 glass, or adding more water, or exercising more often? Think about small steps that will build up to get you to that end goal. And then another thing that we can run into is that we may not make time for our endeavors. So we want to make sure that we block time to help us achieve what we're setting to achieve. So make time for your health, build it into your calendar, make it part of your day. If we can work it into our routine, it just becomes a normal action of your day. And then we want to think about what we can add rather than what we want to take away. So we don't want to restrict ourselves, but what things can we add that we feel that will help us be successful, but not be restricted? So think about adding more fruits and vegetables, more exercise, maybe it's more sleep. That's always a good one, rather than taking things away. And that can really help with your mindset. All right, so let's take a look at some of the things that we can do while we're shopping. So you can use 2 wonderful tools at Giant Food. We have 2 programs that can really guide you through the store. So whether it's during the holidays or anytime during the year, we have our Guiding Stars program, which is a nutritional rating program that helps you identify more nutritious choices in the aisle. And so this program is based on debits and credits for salt, fat, fiber, sugar, and additional ingredients. And so basically, it's using the nutrition facts panel and giving a rating based on that information. So what you can look for, the more stars, the better. So if a product has 1, 2, or 3 stars, that means that it's higher in nutritional quality and it's a great option. So for instance, oatmeal. Oatmeal has 3 guiding stars. So that would be a wonderful choice to choose because it has no sugar or sodium. But if we were to compare another product, maybe one with added sugar, maybe it has 1 or 2 stars. So it really can help guide you when you're walking through the aisles and making decisions in each section. You can also visit guidingstars.com and you can look up any product that you're interested in and learn about the ratings. Now, on the other hand, we have How Good, which is not a nutritional rating program. It tells us the story behind our foods. So it looks at foods and manufacturers, and it looks at their social and environmental impact. And so it looks at practices like minimally processed items, ethical treatment of animals and associates, and really the overall environmental practices of that company. And so it's 3 ratings or 3 benchmarks that the How Good program has. It's a good, great, and a best. And so all you have to do is download the How Good app on your smartphone, scan a barcode, and then read about the rating. So if you have a product that has a best rating, that means it's hitting all the benchmarks. So it's ethically friendly, environmentally friendly, and just overall a very well-rounded company. So 2 tools that you can use to help guide you through the store. All right, so we're going to be doing some baking and some cooking next week and the next couple of weeks. So these are wonderful recipe swaps that you can do now or really any time of the year. So anything with cream, you can use a plain Greek yogurt for sour cream or mayonnaise to really cut down the fat and the calories. It's a good source of protein. So that's one thing that you can do if you're doing any kind of dips. And then if you're doing any baking, you could always switch the type of evaporated milk. Like pumpkin pie, you can switch from the regular to the fat-free, taste just as good and your guests won't notice. And then other things too, like cranberries. Taking that extra step, making your own cranberry sauce, you can have more fiber and less sugar just by taking that extra step. And then things like sodium. So when we're adding chicken broth to our sweet potatoes or our mashed potatoes or our stuffing, that can really increase that sodium. So make a swap for that low sodium or very low sodium options for chicken broth or vegetable broth, and that can really make a difference in your overall sodium intake. And then finally, your beverages too. So seltzer water, carbonated water is a great option any time of the year. Now you can get some holiday flavored varieties. So this one is apple ginger, which is a great one for any kind of mocktails or beverages at get-togethers, and a great way to save those calories. And then also things like eggnog. There's some great new products out there. Here we have Khalifa Farms. It's an almond milk eggnog. And so it's a third of the calories of regular eggnog, but still has all the good flavor. All right, so in the kitchen. All right, so while we're planning our holiday meal, or if we're going to an event or a party, we can use that USDA My Plate, like I mentioned earlier, which is a wonderful reminder of what we should have on our plate, all the different food groups. So we want to aim for half plate produce, a quarter protein, and a quarter whole grain. And this is going to give you a variety of health benefits. It's going to help with weight management, and it's going to give you all those nutrients that you need. Okay, so again, hosting might look a little bit different this year, but hopefully in the next coming years, we'll be back to doing our regular hosting. So if you're planning to do any type of holiday party in the future, there are lots of things that you can do to promote health and wellness for your guests. And you really want to start with being thoughtful with your meal planning. And so don't feel like you have to make all of the traditional foods with the traditional recipes that we always think of when it comes to the holidays. So think of ways that you could add more fruits and vegetables to your recipes or your dishes this year. Or looking at substitutions like using the low-fat sour cream or yogurt in replace of mayonnaise in your dishes. And those are great ways to shave calories and fat. And again, your guests probably won't notice. And then offering those low-calorie beverages as another option for your guests. And so here are some great recipe options. These are from our In-Store Savory magazine. And so just some great ways that you can have fun with adding more fruits and veggies to your meal. So things like roasted Brussels sprouts with sweet potatoes, or a new twist on an old favorite, that green bean casserole with mushroom sauce. That's a fan favorite. Or doing things like roasted squash. I mean, very, very easy and a great way to bring some of those new veggies to the table. And I will say that this can be a hit. A few years ago, we had Brussels sprouts at my house for the first time at Thanksgiving, and they were a hit. And now that's become a staple. So you never know what's going to catch on. But you can find lots of different recipe ideas, again, in the Savory magazine or online at our website. And so thinking about those beverages too. So those traditional holiday beverages, if they're alcoholic or non-alcoholic, can be loaded with sugar and calories. And so a glass of wine might be 100, 150 calories. Eggnog might be 300. And then other items like cider or soda could be over 100 per glass. So we want to think about, how can we create a drink bar that has the wonderful flavors, but not all the calories? So you can use unsweetened bases like, herbal teas or unsweetened apple juice with different spices like cinnamon, cloves, or nutmeg. And so have a flavorful beverage without all those calories. And again, you can always look for some of those plant-based milk alternatives, like the eggnog that I mentioned would be a great one for your guests to try. And then finally, too, as we're putting it all together, you can use the My Plate as you set up the table or the buffet. So you can use each of the 4 food groups and line them up on the table. So first in line, you have your vegetables, your fruits, your grains, and your protein dishes. And so if you put the veggies first in line, people can fill up on those first too. So just a really great way that you can organize your table for a holiday event. And then, of course, the cooking inspiration, our Savory magazine that I mentioned before. But there are lots of places where you can find new recipes that are enjoyable and healthy at the same time. So whether it's our magazine, you can also look on our website. We have our Nutrition Made Easy blog that's right at giantfood.com. You can find some great ideas and inspiration for new dishes or new products. But then if you have a computer or a smartphone, there are so many wonderful recipe websites available to meet your needs. Just takes a few minutes and you can find some great recipes. So other options, cookinglight.com or tablespoon.com are great options if you're looking for some wonderful recipes. And I have to say that cookinglight.com is where a lot of my family recipes over the years that are a little bit healthier have come from. And so finally, before we get to any Q&A, just a little bit more about what we do at Giant. So again, Giant, we have a team of 10 in-store nutritionists. And so we are all over the region. And so I am the one that's local right in Howard County. And so we offer free consultations either over the phone or virtually via Zoom. So we're happy to help you on any concerns that you have, whether it's meal planning, holiday eating, or managing your heart health. We can certainly do that. You can find all of us at giantfood.com/nutrition. That's our webpage. Or you can email nutrition@giantfood if you have any questions. And then we also have things like our Nutrition Made Easy podcast. So this is right on our website as well. Wonderful episodes that you can listen to online or on your favorite smartphone app. So great episodes on things like clinical topics like heart health, diabetes, weight management. But then other great foodie type episodes on new foods to try, spice up your life. We have a wonderful podcast from the head McCormick chef about using spices. So really anything to improve your health and wellness and give you ideas, you can definitely find on our podcast. And then finally, we have our Giant Healthy Living Facebook page. So we love to have our customers and neighbors join our webpage on Facebook, where you can get inspiration about healthy eating and tips and tricks from our whole team. So just a little bit that we have to offer at Giant. All right, well, I'll end there. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take any.
Thanks so much, Melanie. That was great. I really learned a lot.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I didn't know about the guiding stars.
Yes. And so when you're in the aisle, you can look on the shelf tag right below the price, that's where you'll see the logo. Or if it's a giant branded product, such as oatmeal, you'll see the logo printed right on the package.
Yeah, that's really great. I also like the whole idea of avoiding black and white thinking, especially in our current environment. We need to be kind to ourselves and to each other.
Yes.
And the concept of black and white thinking, I think, is
Yeah.
pervasive. People get into that mindset.
We just be easier on ourselves. I think it's one little change in every little triumph that you do adds up, and it really does empower people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I think it really makes a difference. And, I know in the working world, we always talk about, holiday time, after the holidays.
Yes.
And that feeds into your whole concept you were talking about of weeks and weeks of holiday eating as opposed to a day or two of holiday eating.
Yeah. And the most interesting thing is one of my coworkers, brought that to my attention a few years ago. And when she said that, I said, oh, you know what? That is what it boils down to. We think of the season of eating, but it's just a few days. So, enjoy those, but keep that balance.
Yeah, really. It's excellent point. And what about if you have people coming to your meal, which again, now we might not have very many people coming, but if you have a vegan in the family, are there some substitute meals for these traditional holiday meals that meet vegan needs or gluten-free needs?
Absolutely. That's the other great thing that's, available now is that we have so much flexibility. So if you have someone that maybe follows, particular eating pattern or needs, certain things special to them, there are lots of wonderful recipes. There's lots of things that are like gluten-free grains or other alternatives, a tofurkey or things that can meet a lot of people or recipes that aren't cream-based or substitution. So if you do have somebody that prefers, not to have animal products, you can certainly do that. There are so many great options out there. So can be done a little bit of planning, but that can pay off.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a huge difference. I mean, stores like Giant that carry everything that you don't have to go to a specialty store to look. You can do all your shopping in one place. I mean, it really makes a difference. And in terms of the alcoholic beverages, the liquors and such, are there certain liquors that are less carbohydrate concentrated or less caloric concentrated, or it's
I mean, it's usually pretty close. There's going to be a little bit of it's going to vary a little bit. But what you can do is, you can budget it into your day. So, if it's something that you like to have at the holidays, just think of, okay, this might be 200 calories. So if I enjoy this, then how do I budget for the rest of the day? So maybe I'll have one less cookie or one less roll, and you can still work it into usually things like that have like the creamy base or things that have like Kahlua. Those are going to increase the calories.
White Russians, you're going down the White Russian road.
Yeah, but you can work it in. You can definitely still feel like you're having fun, but not restricted at the same time.
And what about any tips for smaller groups, cooking for just one or two?
Absolutely. So we actually just did a presentation on this earlier this week on one or two. And some of the things that have been trending this year, we're seeing differences in the size of turkeys. So people are selecting there are smaller, hens available in the store for people that don't need that big turkey. You can always take that recipe and plan to freeze half of it so you have leftovers for another time. That can be another great way to cook once, eat multiple times. Or there's lots of recipes now where you can definitely modify the number of servings. So you don't need to make the big box. Maybe it's only a serving in there. So like rice or wild rice or stuffing. So absolutely, you can still enjoy yourself. I always think of, well, how about leftovers? We'll have Thanksgiving for multiple days.
Yeah, Yeah, well, that's great. Then you don't have to cook multiple days.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I've definitely learned a lot. I don't see any comments or questions. Just a reminder to everyone, I did put a survey link in the chat. If you would be kind enough to fill out the survey, that gives our panelists and also the library feedback. And thank you so much, Melanie.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and we'll look forward to hearing from you again tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Yes.
So sign up for our webinar tomorrow if you haven't already.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for coming out, and enjoy your holidays, however it might look this year.
Yeah, exactly. You too. Have great
Yes.
holidays and a happy
Thanks.
Thanksgiving.
Thanks, guys.